Welcome to this session where we discuss about strategies to improve the uptake of seaweed farming as one of the initiative to accelerate MCDR initiative in Africa. So I will assume most of you don't know about seaweed. It's the first time you're hearing about it. So seaweed is an ocean macroalgae, very delicious, as you can see. It offers so many benefits, both to the ecological, economic, and also social. So some of the ecological benefits of seaweed is that, like other plants and also other marine marine areas, they help in the absorption of carbon. They also help in nutrient cycling, and also they are an important habitat for fish. So where we have a good growth of seagrass, this area are also important area for growth of juvenile fish that enhance the fisheries of the area. They also play an important role in coastal protection and biodiversity enhancement. In terms of social benefits, seaweed in many areas, Kenya, Tanzania, Madagascar, and many other areas, especially in the eastern side, because of how they are sheltered and protected. Seaweed farming is one of the livelihoods activity for coastal people, especially women. Also, as I mentioned earlier, it's used as food and also as animal feed. The provision of this opportunity for livelihoods gives, because in most of our area, the coastal areas in Africa, fishing activities are dominated by men. Posing seaweed as one of the important sectors in the marine area also give opportunity for women in the blue economy sector. Economic benefits. Seaweed is used in the production of many. It supports the production of many pharmaceutical activities, and also it acts as food additive. In this way, then again, for the places that it is highly produced, it can be exported and provide some revenue for those countries. Also, as I had mentioned in an earlier session that there is a decline in fisheries in most of our area because of degraded coral reefs. So where you have opportunity to have seaweed farming, it is an opportunity for those who initially were dependent on fisheries like small-scale fishers. They can see it as an alternative form of livelihood. So I have explained here in like 3 minutes on how this seaweed is very important for our economy. But despite this, we are not seeing a lot of growth in this sector over the past years. The history of seaweed farming in countries like Tanzania dates back to about 1980s. Am I correct?
Yeah.
1980s. But you're seeing the early 90s. So you are giving it about 30 years of the industry in existence in this country. But the way seaweed is produced is still the same. No major technological advancement have been made all through this era. So, in these times where we are thinking of seaweed as a potential to enhance our MCDR initiative, we are looking for ways in which we can expand this venture, both to help in the socioeconomic benefits that I have mentioned earlier, but also to accelerate carbon dioxide removal in the ocean. So in order to achieve this, we first have to understand these obstacles that are facing us and why we are not growing. That's why, to help me discuss this, I have a great panel that composed of distinguished guests and very people are very well versed with the seaweed activities in our region. So I'd like first of to invite my panelists to come forward to help me with this discussion. So I think I'll have to sit down with my panel here so that we can further this discussion. At this moment, I would like each one of you to introduce themselves, what you do, where you come from, and also how you relate to initiatives related to seaweed.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Mariam Swale, and I head the Ocean Climate Innovation Hub in Kenya. And also, I work at the Technical University of Mombasa, and I'm a researcher. And my work is part of the work that I do is related to seaweed and seaweed innovation and science.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Karugi from Kenya, specifically South Coast in Kwale. I work with Plan International through AGAC funding projects, and we are working with over 600 women-led groups to unlock the potential of seaweed farming. And for us, we not only see seaweed farming as a climate solution, but as a catalyst to climate resilience, women reclaiming agency, ocean healing, and Kenya, of course, leading as an innovator in the blue economy section. So we work to empower the communities through training, giving some startup inputs and infrastructure. And of course, we are working closely with Kenya Marine Fisheries and Research Institute for research to scale up production as you preserve biodiversity. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edwin Mwashinga. I don't see a lot of people with these devices. I hope you can hear us. But my name is Edwin Mwashinga. I am a programs officer for the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, the Subcommission for Africa. It's based in Nairobi. And I majorly coordinate the Ocean Decade in Africa. So I'm the focal point for the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development in Africa. I also support our work in adaptation and also capacity building and ocean literacy. So for us is to capacity build the people in terms of the uptake of seaweed farming, and also support research through governmental agencies in Tanzania, TAFIRI, in Kenya, KEMFRI, and other research institutes, so that the development of seaweed farming will be proper or sustainable in that aspect. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Sarah Mastroni. I'm a program officer at Ocean Visions. We think about macroalgae and microalgae in a number of ways, but kelp specifically, we think about ways in which it can help decarbonize the marine economy, and we actually have a new program that's going to be looking at ways to accelerate low carbon products from seaweed. And then we also think about seaweed in terms of marine carbon dioxide removal as well, and what role it might be able to play in that sphere. And I have to say, I've been fascinated by seaweeds for many years. That actually predated my time at Ocean Visions. And in grad school, my focus was looking at a red algae that could be used in cattle feed to reduce methane emissions. So algae is certainly near and dear to my heart, and I'm very excited to be on this panel.
Thank you very much. I'll now move to the issues at hand. And to start with, Nancy, you work with the community on everyday basis. You experience their problem, their challenges, and what they go through, and you look to do some intervention towards helping them. In your own perspective, what do you think are the most pressing issues that these seaweed farmers are facing that you and your organization are trying to make some interventions?
Yeah, thank you very much. To note, as Toya and everyone has mentioned, seaweed farming is dominantly done by women. So all the challenges that you may think that women will face are the challenges that affect the production, because in Kenya what we are fighting as the first challenge to encounter how we can create the resilience of women, it's to increase production. But now it is women and the many challenges they face. One of them, I would say, it is the issue of equity and inclusion. We can't do seaweed without talking of creating an inclusive environment that is suitable to women. To start with, I would say the problem of unpaid care work. Seaweed farming, it's not an easy journey, and sometimes if that we don't have enough technology and resources, it is time consuming. Now remember, even at home, African culture, women, I think statistically, like 70% of the unpaid care work is done by women. So what is it that you have to do to make sure that you reduce the burden they face so that they can venture in this promising unfolding revolution in seaweed farming? So as a project, as an organization, we are working with the women and of course with boys and men in a journey we refer to a gender justice journey, where we are looking how we can work with men, boys and husbands so that they can support the women in their unpaid care work and even in the seaweed farming, just to make sure that they have a supporting hand, so that we won't have a situation where they have to maybe neglect a child at home for them to step in the ocean and maybe set up a farm. Another aspect that we are trying to build as an organization, as a project, it is offering practical training and knowledge. Through the project, we have been able to identify community-based trainers who have gone through the trainings, and currently they are taking the communities through the trainings from farming techniques, harvesting, and also adding value to what they produce. And also not forget, as we are offering skills, we are also looking at the skills that most women lack. Funny enough, women in coast, majority of them don't know how to swim. But now seaweed is done in the ocean with all the risks associated, and you have these women that you want to train and empower and farm seaweed, but they don't know how, for example, to swim. So these are skills that we are trying to build to make sure all the risks that they might encounter are well catered for. And then we are also trying to make sure they have access to resources. Like even in our earlier presentation, you've heard fishing, but then when you hear the word fishing in coast, what comes in your mind? Have you ever heard of a fisherwoman? That isn't right. So the marine resources, the space is dominated by men. But what is it that we can do, work together to make sure that we secure this plot for seaweed farmers who are women? What is it and how can we work together with the beach management units, that's how we refer them to in Kenya, or the fishermen, to make sure after these women have set their farms in the ocean, they don't pass through there with their boats and then now they carry all the seaweed with them. So we are looking to integrate policies that also create a space for women to access the marine resources, and at the same time we are trying to instill the story of financial literacy. We don't want to step in this space, support with the foundational training and input, but then after the project is over, these women, maybe they have bought very beautiful clothes and food, but now what then? So we are bringing the issue of village saving loan associations, where we encourage them from the incomes they get from seaweed, they can invest. And from these associations now they can get the loans that they can buy their own startup inputs, and also maybe some income, also like they can get some income to take their children from school, just to assess those basic resources they need through the Saving Loans Association. And lastly, we are also looking into innovations that can lessen or can make their work easier. Seaweed farming, it is not common to all. Toya started saying maybe most of us here, this is the first time we are hearing of seaweed. So that means that even the technology, the innovations that are there, we don't have many of them in seaweed farming. For example, in Kenya it is done shallow shores which are prone to the impact and shocks of climate change, like drought, like floods. You have a woman has set a farm, but because of the flooding, they are swept away. So that means they have lost an income. They have also lost seeds that they would use for the next time after they harvest. So we are looking and calling for collaborators, and also doing research whether we can have a deep sea nursery for seaweed. That means deep sea, it's less affected by the heat waves and the droughts. So by doing that way, we can be sure we have a consistent supply of seaweed despite the issues that we are having with climate change. We are also looking to innovations to lessen the time they may use in the ocean. Like also we are creating and innovating some racks that allow them to harvest seaweed as they dry. That means that the burden of carrying that heavy sack of seaweed somehow is reduced. Then finally, it's about value addition. We are working to research with the Cascadia Seaweed Corporation. We are working currently to study a market where we can have what is it that we can produce that have high value from seaweed that our farmers can produce, and at the same time connect them to market resources.
Thank you. Thank you very much for outlining the issues. As you can see, the audience, there are a lot of issues that need to be solved in order to make our seaweed industry more profitable, so that women can get some meaningful income. You ended your discussion at a very high note that you are looking for technology to sort some of this problem. Don't look further. Just next to you is someone who is leading the Innovation Hub in Mombasa. Mariam, I understand the Innovation Hub is still new, but I know you're looking forward to have it be one of the anchor place where some of the issues that have been highlighted you can find solution for. At this point, I want you to discuss to us your forward looking on how you will want to develop the Ocean Hub, especially in addressing issues related to seaweed.
Thank you for your question, Pascal, and thank you for a very comprehensive description on how you work with communities. And I think research and innovation plays a very key role in any industry. And as part of the Ocean Climate Innovation Hub, those are two key areas that we focus on. And we are looking at two things: how to improve production of seaweed, and also number two, how to add value. And I understand many communities, they are working on seaweed for cosmetics, they make lotions, they make shampoos. But also, we are looking at it on a climate perspective. How do we decarbonize the blue economy industry? For example, how can we produce alternatives to plastic using seaweed, using seaweeds? So that's a research that we are working on. And also another thing that we are looking at is also in nutrition. Seaweeds, both wild seaweeds and the cultivated seaweeds have a high nutrition level depending on the species, but also we realize, as I'll use an example of Kenya, Kenyans don't really consume seaweeds. Right now, people have introduced it into the market, but there's still that gap. So how can this seaweed production or value addition also support nutrition for children, and also introduce it as a food in the communities in Kenya? Because so what we are looking at is how can we use it for fortification of our everyday meals, like ugali, that is maize meal. So, and also for communities that don't eat anything from the ocean, how can we include it into their nutrition? So these are some of the research that we are looking at, and see and look at how critical areas of, I'll say, climate change, and also especially when you look at food security, and also solving issues of plastic waste, which is a huge problem in Kenya, I'll say all over the world. All of this needs a lot of investment, some of these technologies, but I feel like we can start with the low-hanging fruits, like simple products for children, or purees. Can it be added into children's food? Can we work with healthcare workers to support seaweed for nutrition for children, as well as anybody who would want? So all of this cannot be done by scientists only. Research, we must do the research and innovate, but also for us to be able to use this, or to make it a market, we need everyone. We need the government, we need the private sector especially, because I heard you mentioned about value addition, and how I feel to some extent is also burdening the women. They're the ones producing the seaweed, and also they're the ones adding value. Why can't it be like other industries where they focus on production, they do very good production, then another organization picks it up and do value addition for the seaweed? So those are some of the things I'm thinking, but it can't be like one organization only. Partnership is very key when you want to grow an industry, and basically at the hub, what we do is leverage on that. who is doing what and how can we engage them, and what kind of support can we give, or what can we, how can we build this together. Lastly, I'll say, apart from nutrition, recently we were working on a project with WWF on seaweed for animal feeds for East Africa. So under that research work, you can see organizations like WWF are well funded. So what they're doing is connecting the researchers to labs to do analysis. We don't have maybe the labs to do such kind of analysis. We are limited when it comes to the equipment we have or the infrastructure. So I would urge also organizations that are funding to see what critical areas are there, especially when it comes to research and innovation, and how can they put money in that so that we can expand the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the insights and the work that you're already doing to help lessen the challenges that the seaweed farmers are experiencing. I want to shift gear to an international perspective now. To you, Sarah. You've heard about our challenges, very many, right? Our potential solution from the Innovation Hub as well. At this point, I want you to have more of a global perspective and on your own assessment, see what are the opportunity that the seaweed industry in Africa has, especially when you're comparing it with other regions that you have experience with. And also, looking at this, what innovation do you think can also be adopted to this African setting to accelerate the growth of seaweed?
So I have a different perspective here. I grew up in California, also on the coast, but a bit different. And it's been interesting because there's been recently quite a lot of interest in farming seaweed off the coast of California. And it's interesting comparing these two regions. In California, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of competition for this space, but there's not a knowledge base or a history of cultivating seaweed on that coast. And there is here. And so this is actually quite a interesting comparison, because even though you see people with the research backgrounds, there's a lot of resources, right? There is a lot of coastline. That knowledge base is not there. Permitting is very difficult, right? There's not a history of having coastal seaweed farms in California and off that western coast. And so it's been a very, very difficult nut to crack. I look at Africa and I see a lot more opportunity actually in many ways. There is a history of farming seaweed, so there's this deep knowledge base of the species that grow here, what they need, what sort of structures are necessary, the type of work that needs to be put into it, which is a huge advantage, right? That's taken a long time to develop that. It's a really valuable knowledge base. The coastal access and the fact that there are historical farms along the coast is also, I think, incredible. They need a lot of space if you're wanting to farm seaweed for whether or not it's for carbon or for other products. In order to scale up, right, you need more space, and that is available here. And I would say another thing is that, and this is maybe not completely unique to Africa, but this is a huge advantage, is that you have these other commitments that are very complementary to seaweed farming. So you have commitments to blue economy development, you have these commitments to gender equality, you have interest in these other benefits that go along with seaweed farming. And I think that's really critical when we're talking about growing this sector. I would say some of the challenges that stick out to me are scaling and integrating new technology, and sort of in order to be able to do that scaling. One of the things I've noticed in the United States is that people are trying to do seaweed farms without that much of a market. So the markets are quite small. They're trying to sort of do these artisanal seaweed farming and projects. And so they will have some success, but there's a pretty low ceiling on how far they can go with it. So I think that's the opportunity here, is to understand what are the markets that can scale, and then going a step farther and understanding, okay, so we have this like traditional knowledge base that's very important and powerful. How can we integrate new technology to sort of expedite and further increase productivity of these systems that we already know really well? So, for instance, instead of, I think there are processes that are happening by hand right now of people walking out and doing stuff like by hand. And there's technology that can really speed that up and make it not so human powered. And so there are things like this, these little points that you can insert, these sort of new innovations. And I think a lot of this speaks to also just more collaboration in this space too. I will speak from another experience. I live in Alaska now, and seaweed farming is something that has been happening there for a long time, but they're also trying to expand. And as I've sort of entered that community, I've noticed that, so much collaboration is happening, and it's so necessary because they're really relying on other people to help them understand, okay, these are the challenges, we're having X, Y, and Z. Have you experienced any of these things, and how have you overcome them? And so I think that's a really big and important part of this conversation as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for that perspective. Scaling, as you said, it's really important. And scaling also may mean us venturing into new spaces, maybe deeper waters with new technology, but that also brings a lot of complication again, because you have a lot of users in the ocean space, including already existing fishers, transport, tourism. There's a lot of that. There is initiative to do marine spatial planning in many places, which could help address this. And to discuss further on this, I want to welcome Edwin, because at IOC UNESCO, I know you are spearheading a lot of activities in the region in terms of marine spatial planning. But my question here is, I know you're already doing this initiative. Just how much are you thinking seaweed when you're doing these initiatives?
Thank you so much, Pascal. How much are we thinking seaweed? That's difficult. The marine spatial planning process needs to be very inclusive. It needs to be very inclusive, and sadly, most of the time, the lower users or the grassroots users are not on the table when the marine spatial planning process is discussed. So to me, I think it is essential to bring seaweed farmers on the table to discuss the benefits and what they think is proper to be done in that space of marine spatial planning, as it develops into a policy, so that they are not missing in that policy, because the MSP process is to end in a policy, in a marine spatial plan, a policy for the countries. So I think it's having their voices and recognizing that they are part of the users, not just ports, not just ships, not just fishers, but we recognize that they are big players in this. And even as we expand, and I like that you talked about scaling, I think there is importance for us to have policy and regulation of this seaweed farming, so that it scales sustainably. Because for us to move or to avoid the tragedy of the commons theory, or the tragedy of the common phenomenon, we need to actually have a properly regulated seaweed farming, because nowadays I think it's not that regulated. Anyone can go into the ocean and put up their seaweed farms, which we don't know the detrimental effects or what impacts it has. And even in terms of marketing, policy is essential in terms of ensuring that there is fair and just markets, because we are also seeing a lot of industries coming into this space, kicking out the smallholder farmers of seaweed, and they have bigger markets outside. They are getting they are even buying, they are acting as brokers. They are buying from the local farmers, the women, at a very low cost, and they end up selling it at exponential profits outside, exporting seaweed. So we need to have that policy in place so that we ensure that there is benefit to these communities, there is proper compensation, and there is a regulation in terms of where seaweed farms can go, and that is part of the marine spatial plans. And even with the BBNJ agreement, it's close to be ratified. Like, how do we expand now to areas beyond national jurisdiction, because this is something that, it is a good thing for our local farmers, but or local women on the coastlines, but if it is not properly anchored into policy, then I think it's going to be a problem going forward. So let's have that discussions. Let's have that space that we think of regulating and politicizing the seaweed farming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edwin, on your insights. I still have so many questions to ask this panel. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, and I think most of you are already tired. I can see Shamim at the back there. You want us to leave. But before we leave, I know seaweed is a new topic to some people. Is there anyone who has really a burning question? One question for any of the panelists? Yes?
Thank you. Well done for the good presentation. Yeah, my question goes to Mariam. There's increased seaweed product, which make us confused, which is which. So I just want to hear your advice how to control it and make a good market for the customers, because like in Tanzania also we have different products and added from the seaweed, but we are not sure of the quality and everything. So I just want to hear your thought. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I know there, even today, when I left Kenya, there was the agricultural show, and hundreds of entrepreneurs came with their seaweed products. And most people are making products based on the formulation. I know if I mix ABC, I'm going to get the product. But how sure are we of the quality? And if it actually works, what is the concentration? So here, that's why there is a need for entrepreneurs to work with scientists or researchers, because this, how do I call it? There's a disconnect in the middle. Provided I can Google a formulation and make it, then I have a product. So number one, the need of entrepreneurs to work with the scientists or researchers, but also how are researchers or scientists connecting with the communities or the entrepreneurs. That's why I'll speak in the context of Kenya. There are so many innovation hubs and incubation centers that support this. From the university or from research institutes, you can get them. And also we have government-owned incubation centers that work with some of these people, entrepreneurs. But not all of them go there. So the other thing is government regulation. In Kenya, we have KEBS. In other countries, we have other bureaus of standards. So that now is under the government to regulate and to make sure all the people who are making these products, they must take them to their labs to be tested. The unfortunate thing is that it's expensive, and number one, it's expensive. So most people they're small-scale entrepreneurs. They sell these products very cheaply. So that's a challenge. And number two, many people are not aware that they think for your product to go to get the sign of Bureau of Standards, it has to be, a very big product or those big companies. But what they don't know, especially I'll give context of Kenya. If you're a small business owner, they have a certain subsidy for small business owners, provided they come to you, you show them where you're producing, what quantities, all your processes are okay. They have a subsidy for small business owners to take their products. So I feel also such organizations need to visit, especially when we have those like shows, or they visit Nancy's, they work with the local communities to first of all inform them about the services that they offer, and number two, also see how they can support them to access those services. Then the third thing I think is also we need to build our scientific infrastructure. Like this can be also through simple, methodologies for doing analysis. That is for the researchers, because sometimes you'll go to a researcher, they tell you, oh, you need a HPLC, or you need, those expensive methods of analysis. How can we, as African scientists or researchers, come up with innovative ways of testing products, as well as of testing the products? And lastly, I would like to add on traceability. Where are these people growing these seaweeds? Where are they getting them from? And is it being done in a sustainable way? And also, so traceability from where the plants, the products, what is it called? The raw material is gotten from to the final product, I think is something that we have not really looked into. I believe one day this seaweed industry can become like coffee or tea industry if it is done properly, because the coffee and tea industry are thriving because they have regulations, they have bodies and policies around them that supports from farming to production. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How many are ready to start eating seaweeds so that we can make it coffee and tea industry? So as you've heard from this discussion, there is a huge potential of scaling up seaweed farming so that it can be of good benefit to our women in the coastal areas. Challenges are there, as they have been highlighted by Nancy, but there is also some good opportunity to scale up innovations, as highlighted by Miriam, on how we can overcome this homegrown solution, like the type of test that you've highlighted. But also we have learned from the other side that there is also opportunity to scale this in terms of going further to the ocean space, venturing on new methodologies of production. But the limitation there is coming up with good policy in terms of marine spatial planning, as highlighted by Edwin, so that this can be a thriving industry. So thank you all for coming to our short and sweet session. I hope you've enjoyed. I know you may have one or two things to ask the panelists after here, maybe over coffee or something. Just let's continue with the discussion. Thank you very much, everyone.
Group photo.
Yeah, group photo.